Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. Feedback, huh? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here.
I would like to make a motion to take from the table file of the council number 54, 2023.
Second.
There's been a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table file of council number 54, 2023. This is the zoning ordinance and has been tabled until the amended ordinance was advertised and the public could comment on those changes. It's being taken from the table and placed in seventh order for final vote. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, Single Tax Office City Funds Distributed Comparison Report 2023-2022 year-to-date, May 2nd, 2023. 3B, Minutes of the Scranton Civil Service Commission meeting held April 4th, 2023. 3C, Minutes of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority regular meeting minutes held April 5th, 2023. 3D, correspondence dated May 2nd, 2023 and May 5th, 2023 from the Business Administration regarding budget transfers. 3E, correspondence dated May 3rd, 2023 from OECD regarding code enforcement report for City Council.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a couple. First, I just wanted to start off by wishing everyone a happy Mother's Day come Sunday. And I know I'll be enjoying time with my family and my little one, and I'm proud to be a mother. Also for Mother's Day, there's going to be a plant sale over at the greenhouse this weekend. So it's Friday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you want to pick up some flowers for a mother in your life, then you can head down to the greenhouse. And lastly, I wanted to announce that there's going to be a female hygiene product drive. So if you have menstrual products that you could bring over to Courthouse Square, it's going to be from May 12th through May 13th, 5 p.m. I think it'll be there 5 to 8 p.m. at the Courthouse Square across from where the new Chase Bank is going to be. And that's going to be for Scranton High. So if you could bring, pads, tampons there, that would be helpful. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would also like to wish all the mothers in my life a happy Mother's Day, and all the mothers out there, including the ones that are here. I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day this Saturday, and hang in there, boys. Father's Day is right around the corner. Also, tomorrow, May 10th and May 11th, there'll be a spring spaghetti dinner, take out or eat in at the Victor Alfieri Society. The main entrance to the Victor Alfieri Society on 206 North Main Avenue, Scranton, PA. It's 4 p.m. takeout only, and then from 5 to 8, you can eat in or take out. It's $12 for adults, $5 for children. These are great guys, great food, and it's a great price. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else? I, too, would like to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day out there in the audience, and also to my wife and my mother-in-law and my mother up in heaven. So we should be thankful for all of our mothers because I get to see every day what mothers do for their children, and we're very fortunate and blessed by the women in our lives. So let's all celebrate them and be thankful for the mothers out there. Fourth order.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodawan at Scranton. One more time, do we have a date for our 2021 audit caucus?
Not at this time, we do not.
And has the mayor made a decision on the 10% penalty?
I'll address that in fifth order.
Okay. And I'll remind you that you still need to publish a summary of expenditures and revenues from the audit in the paper. That's done in legals every year. Speaking of audits, whatever happened to the legislation that was supposed to be ready at the end of April for Clifford, Lawson, and Allen, our new auditors?
I'll address that in fifth order as well.
Okay. The DPW contract, still not on the city's website. We're pushing 8 months. Any idea what the holdup is?
I still believe that I had asked the mayor for that, and she was going to check with legal. So, Frank, could you check with the administration and see what the holdup is with getting that DPW contract and getting it posted on our website, if you would?
I will, Mr. King.
Thank you.
And now that we have an arbitration settlement for the firefighters contract, that needs to be posted too, their new contract. And where do we stand on the arbitration for the police?
That's going to be happening at the end of this month.
Okie dokie. I see that Ms. Cipriano is going to be the new BA. Does legislation have to come down to you appointing her to that position?
I'm going to address that in fifth order as well.
Okie dokie. And have we have a replacement for her in OECD yet, or they're still working on that?
I believe that they're still working on that. They were interviewing for some other positions, so they're hopeful that there may be some potential candidates out of that group that they've interviewed.
Okay. On the general topic of appointments, with regard to the Ethics Board, Council has 2 nominations. David Falchek is the council chair, the board chairman. His term ends on August 31st, 2024. The other person that council appointed in the past was Andrew Lazella, and his term ended August 31st of 2022. So I would assume that the ball is in your court to either renew his appointment or appoint a new member. Were you aware that his term had run out?
I was not aware of that, but
Okay. One recommendation I would make, the Environmental Advisory Council, the Ethics Board, any other board or commission or authority that you have responsibility for making appointments, just create a small spreadsheet, name when the term expires. 3 months ahead of the expiration date, you start looking for a new person or you reappoint them. So you don't have someone that's, almost a year out.
it's a great suggestion.
Okay.
I'll talk to Mr. Voldenberg about setting something like that up.
We'll take care of that, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And when you choose a person, I attend a lot of various boards and commission meetings, having nothing to do with my time anyway. And I got to tell you, it's disappointing when I see people sitting on these boards and commissions that I think the only reason they're sitting there is for bragging rights. They don't want to do anything. I attended the last ethics board meeting, I believe it was March 15th. It was the middle of March. And I got to tell you, I asked a couple questions. Well, here's the code. Why haven't you done this? What's the status of that? Do you know what one of the board members said to me? Well, we don't have a staff. It's like, come on, guys. What are you, window dressing? When you start looking for people you appoint to these boards or reappoint, make sure they're not there only for bragging rights or resume building. If they don't want to get their hands dirty, if they don't want to break a sweat, they don't belong there. Keep in mind, once you appoint those people, you have no control over them. And finally, out of 169 statements of financial interest that were due on May 1st, you only have 96. That's a 57% return rate. I want to see a wall of shame posted on the city's website. All the names who submitted and their form and who didn't. So let's get the pressure on these slackards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodowanis. Faye Farinas.
Faith Farinas, Scranton. Tonight I want to talk about something that I've been speaking about for months. I want to talk about the overtime at the DPW. Today I received my right to know reply for the overtime for March. Actually, it was for 6 weeks, but it still told the story. What it had is the person's name, the hours they worked that day, but they didn't list the day, and how much money they made. There was no reason, there was no date, but there was like 6 pages of all the employees and how much money they made. Steve Tiemann, who was a supervisor, one day he had 42 hours overtime. He made $1,592 in a 2-week period. 2-week period. Each sheet that I got was a 2-week period. And another day he made $1,300 in a 2-week period. And this other guy, Bulisi, I think his name was, he made $1,600. He had 44 hours of overtime in a 2-week period. That was 22 hours for 1 week overtime. That's just a couple. But what I'm trying to say, there was no dates, there was no accountability, and there was no reasons. And this has been going on since Mr. Preamble left. The union has just taken over, and nobody's running the ship down there. And like I said, Mr. Petroface, the director, he's the one that made the most overtime last year, $29,800. But now he's the director, and he went from $47,000 to $75,000 in his pay raise. He doesn't get overtime now. He doesn't need to. But here's my point. Mr. King, may I ask the council members a question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. My question is this to each one of you. Don't you feel that the people who pay this overtime, the taxpayers, have a right to know what the reason was and the date that it happened? Accountability. The mayor ran on transparency and accountability. Ms. Rothchild, do you believe that the people that paid these huge bills, it was $65,000 just for 6 weeks. It was $191,000 for 3 months. And there's no date, there's no reason. Do you believe that the people who pay this bill have a right to know the reasons, the date, and everything that detail why they make this money?
Yes, I believe that there should be reasons recorded for overtime.
Pardon me?
I believe there should be reasons recorded for overtime.
And the date?
And the date, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McAndrew?
Of course I agree with that, and we've been asking for that for a couple of years, so.
I know that,
Can you ask me a question? Please allow me to finish it.
Mr. King?
Never mind.
Yeah, I would think that, once again, let's go back to Joan's spreadsheet. List the date, list the time, list the reason. Yeah, sure.
You're saying it should, right?
Yep.
I can't hear you here too well.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Schuster?
Yeah, so it's something I've spoke about for quite some time because we have been overshooting our budgetary, I mean, some of the departments last year, I think the DPW administration was 729% over budget. So I would be in agreement with this.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, this is what I want to ask council. I'm proposing that you make legislation that all city department directors explain the reason for their overtime, the day that they use it, the money the hours they worked, and how much they made, and their names. The names, the reason, the hours they worked, and the date. That's what I would like legislation passed. If you don't do this, I can't imagine you would have no reason not to, because I would think that all the taxpayers in the city would like to know how their money is being spent. The fire department and the police department, they record every penny of their overtime, their days, their reasons, everything. So if the Scranton Fire Department, who the taxpayers pay for, and the police, they give reasons, they give dates, they're very accountable. They're very transparent, but the union, that the DPW is not. So I would like to see if you would consider passing legislation to make this mandatory for all city hall department directors. Mr. King, would you consider that?
Yeah, I'd consider it. I just want to make sure that, we talked to our solicitor, and we made sure that any legislation that we would put forth before this body is, legally binding, and make sure that's enforceable. Yes.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Franis. Bob Bullis?
Thanks. Okay.
Good evening, Council. Bob Bola, Scranton. What I've given you just now was back in 21, when Gahan was here, we had moved to remove him from council because of the statements and councils he made, calling me an ignorant fool, and then saying that name-calling was not allowed by the rules of decorum. And he went ahead with that, and then he called me a weak-minded bully. And it went on. So we filed back then to remove him from council because of his negative comments. And then we had filed a federal lawsuit, which he came in and told council a few weeks ago that it was dismissed. Well, before you could see, the federal lawsuit is very alive and active, and it's for civil rights violations of the rules of council created by Bill Gahan. And I'm not going to try and read everything to you, but you could go through it yourselves and see the allegations of fact, the parties, and everything else that Gahan pulled when he was council president here. He claimed to have said it was not name-calling, a tongue-in-cheek manner. However, his insults were calling me an ignorant fool and going on with his comments and his insults. Well, I filed to get rid of him, because that's not what we need in the city of Scranton. And his mother made a comment that you get into a contest with a skunk, you're going to come out smelling like one, which was directed to me. And I brought a guy dressed in a skunk costume to protect me from him here. So, I'm a weak-minded bully, uneducated venom. And these are the comments by Gahan. Well, we're going to do everything we can to see that this guy does not get anywhere in a position to do what he did. I've been in this city my whole life. Throughout the family, we've been employers for almost 100 years. Between 81 and 92, I employed over 1,200 people. Had 600 trucks running around the country. I'm involved in interests overseas and everywhere else. What's Bill Gahan's claim to fame? That he could question me when he's not even in my category. He wouldn't know how to get into our category. And the reason I brought this before council, I'm not here to fight with people. I'm here to see our city move forward. We've got people growing up here. We have the issues in school. We have drag queens running around. We're taking away our moral structures. And issues like that have to be addressed. We can't just sit tongue-in-cheek. I don't care what anyone's sexual orientation is. I could care less. I have people that work for us, and I have no qualms with their sexual orientation. They do their job. That's what they're there to do. And I respect people that'll stand up for what they believe and their rights. But when we come to a council, we have issues that we need to discuss, because not everybody up there or sitting out here knows everything. And to make the comments that Gahan did to me, now he wants to be a county commissioner. Well, he skunked us with his attitude. Look what he did on Biden Street. I want to vomit every time I hear the word or go to say it. But yet he cared less what the people on Spruce Street had to say, the businesses and the people who lived there. And all of us who live in the city, we have to come down the expressway or drive on interstate where thousands of people travel through here, think we all support Joe Biden. We don't. As far as I'm concerned, he is not my president. And what he's done to this country and to the kids and the people and the moral structure, I can't even put it in words. And we're going to see more of that happens as it goes on. But this is what he did. He skunked us. Now he wants to become a county commissioner. He's a bond paid for guy. Look at the money he's received. He's not going to be able to say no to anybody that dumped all this money into him, if in fact he's successful getting into the commissioner's seat. And then what's he going to do? Skunk Lackawanna County like he skunked all of us in the city of Scranton? These are the people that should not be allowed to move forward. And believe me, I'm saying it here publicly. I'll do everything in my power politically to keep Bill Gahan from taking that seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullis. Kristen Zantis.
Hello, Kristen. I'm in here in reference to Quandell, who is building a building on Dixon Avenue to the right of me. From day one, there's been trouble here or there, a broken window that I repaired, grass that they destroyed that I already said before.
Kristen, excuse me, who's building there? I'm sorry.
They're building a senior building.
Senior
Quandell's
building.
building it.
Quandell's doing the work. Okay, thank you.
The noise, the shaking of the house, when you sit on the couch in the living room that's against the wall, you basically feel like you're on a ship that's ready to go over. The dirt is terrible, so like you can't sit on the front porch, which that's the least of the problems right now. They've been, you go over there, you tell them, but unfortunately, they don't understand what I'm saying. Nothing wrong with that, but they don't speak English, the people that are working there. So they have no clue what I said to them. I asked them, a bunch of times, about what's going on. They say something, I can't understand them. They can't understand me. I left. I was out of town on Friday. Went to Philly. Got back later evening. There was a terrible smell in the house. So I thought, well, because I had the windows open, I opened the windows when I got back, I thought I was picking up from the road. So I let it go. The next day, it was still there. By Sunday, it was getting worse. There was, no explanation for it. Monday comes, it's pretty bad. Call UGI, they come. They went around with their thing to make sure, and then they found out that there's gas leak in 3 spots down in the basement. With the shaking of the house, the pipe going into the hot water heater is extremely loose and it's leaking. 2 other spots going into the furnace. Now, UGI shut it off, shut the gas off. I have no hot water right now. My house takes an accustomed to get to the temperature of the outside. It doesn't get warm right away. Well, this afternoon, it's freezing in my house right now. Tonight's going to be 40 degrees. It's going to be below 30 in my house tonight. According to my estimation, the house was shaking nonstop every single day since they started building. They didn't want to do anything. They said that, it's fine. They said, we're going to stop. They said, we're done with it. 2 days go by, they bring in a new machine to start digging that shakes the house even worse. I had a broken window that I fixed that I'm not responsible for because they did it. There was no other explanation for it to break. It wasn't freezing cold outside. It was from the shaking of the house. There's a mine underneath the house, and right now in the back of my yard, there's a big sinkhole. If the house goes in, just remember there's people down there. But right now, I have no heat, no hot water. Spoke to them today on the phone, my mother did. The guy was as nasty as can be from Quandel. You know, you shouldn't speak to somebody like that. I don't know if he's trying to raise somebody's blood pressure to give them a heart attack, but that's what was about to happen. They say they take no responsibility. They say they're here in the city. They say they can do what they want. Now, apparently, nobody's going to do anything because Quandel says they're not responsible. The guy over there that's working for the construction company right now, the head of it over there, that's standing over there, can't understand why you would build a building right there between two houses. My house is shaking still every day. They say they're not doing any more digging. Every day it's shaking. I had a mail carrier there standing on the porch saying to me, sending me a message and then telling me one day when he's standing there, why is the front porch shaking? Now, does anybody have any way for me to get in touch with anybody that can help? I mean, this is not my responsibility to pay for it. You know, Quandel should take some kind of responsibility here.
Have you reached out to the administration of Quandel?
Yeah, she just switches you to a different line that you get a voicemail and nobody calls you back. I mean, I have no running hot water. That bill's going to be astronomical right now to fix because of the damage. They won't turn it back on because if it blows up.
Okay. Mr. Voldenberg, can you have somebody from like code enforcement or something to go over there? One of our inspectors or even, you know, the city planner, Don King or somebody to go over and take a look at the property to kind of assess what the situation is there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You're probably going to have to talk to an attorney.
And I'm supposed to sit with no hot water in the house?
I'm just advising you that you should, if you have those issues, you should probably talk to an attorney.
Is there anybody that knows Quandel? Like, I mean, that was Mayor Doherty's big project, but is there anybody that around here that can help for now? Like, is there any, like, I mean, I don't understand a big construction company like Quandel not responsible for anything.
I mean, what we can do as a city, if they're violating a noise ordinance, we can get involved at that level, things like that. But I think that Attorney Gallagher is probably correct, because it sounds like you have some damage as a result of, so it sounds like you have a claim, a legal claim there.
I have a crack in my window, and the only way I can fix it right now is to put something over it, because, I mean...
Right, but what I'm telling you is this, that it sounds like you have a legal case there that I would recommend that maybe you get an attorney to go after these individuals that have caused this damage. What we can do as a city is to go over and, you know, check on violations of noise, and you had indicated before with parking with these big trucks. Those are the things that we can absolutely address. But the other issues, I believe that you actually have probably...
Yeah, I have no way to turn it back on right now because the gas company won't turn it on. So, I mean, I don't know if there's another number, somebody else in charge of Quandel, maybe some different person I could talk to, aside from the person that responded to the call.
I don't think any of us know anybody that works for Quandel here at City Council, other than, as you mentioned, Mr. Doherty, and I don't know, I believe that he's in development or sales. I don't know that he's involved with the actual construction piece. But I could certainly ask him on your behalf.
Excuse me, excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. Now, the gas company was there, and they just red flag your furnace? Is that my understanding, or they shut it off?
They shut it off. They won't turn it back on.
So, as their customer, did they give you an opportunity? Maybe they can fix it and tack it onto your bill until you find recourse later, so it's safe for you to operate the furnace or the water heater? I would start with them. I mean, of course, the city should investigate it.
Well, Valley should take some responsibility after all the damage they did.
I agree with you, but, you know, you have to start somewhere. But of course, the city's going to investigate it for you, or should. But I would talk to the gas company, too.
Thank you. Ron Ellman?
Hello, Council. For years now, each week I speak to 2, 3, 4 people who approach me favorably, you know, at the stores I go to. And just short conversations, many times about other things besides politics. And these people are the heart of this city. Not Page and not Bozzoni and not Olasky, but these hardworking residents. These are people that love this city and respect the administration a lot more than I have for it. They want a future here. They want the American dream. It seems like Geisinger's just stolen part of the city's American dream under the pretense of progress. Well, yesterday I received a postcard from Mrs. Hayes, you know, to support her. This is rubbish as far as I'm concerned, like they told me my yard and house is full of. You, Mr. Schuster, you gave me this a couple months ago. I told you last week nothing hardly been touched. But the house across from me, the house of 7 cars, he wrote on here, cars have been removed. Nothing been removed. This is what I say. Mr. Sunday's just a despicable liar, like he lied in court to win the case. Mrs. Hayes is the attorney, and she has refused to address my allegations against the Licensing Bureau. I don't believe she's the caliber person we need in office at this time. I read the other day a short article that they were going to take a liner out of one of the swimming pools and plaster it. Well, I don't know much about good whiskey and horses, and horse races and women, but I know about swimming pools. Liner pools are not concrete. They're made of a product called poolcrete. It never gets hard. You cannot plaster over it. Concrete lasts thousands of years. Poolcrete's got a short span, actually, compared to a concrete plastered pool. And I think somebody, before the city throws away some more money like they do left and right on ridiculous projects, somebody needs to get a knowledgeable person involved to see what to do with that pool. Probably put a liner back in it and be cheaper than anything they're thinking of. What you're talking about is comparable to those houses built on a slag pile in Dunmore if you try to plaster that pool. I've been over them, under them, inside of them. I've seen 100-year-old swimming pools in California, and I know what I'm talking about. You cannot plaster over Pool Creek. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. And Mr. Ellman, I will remind you that under council rules, no person, including members of council, shall use their time during citizens' participation to personally insult or attack any individual. Thank you. That exhausts the sign-in list. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard by council?
Good evening, Council. Dave Rinaldi, 212 Colfax. I wanted to make a couple comments on the zoning ordinance tonight. Number one, just in the last 2 weeks, it appears that maybe there will be 10 municipalities, as Waverly is debating now to get back in and to pass their SAP ordinance, but they need to amend it in the meantime. Consequently, because of the way SAP is set up, the municipalities on the edges, as long as they don't have a use that is necessary for the other participants, can either decide to stay or go, and it will not affect the rest. So I think you're well on your way to SAPA now, and I would urge everyone to vote in favor of the amended zoning ordinance tonight. I also wanted to say that I did watch the council debate. I'm not quite sure why they didn't allow Mr. Smurl to participate, but I thought everyone did a tremendous job. I thought you acquitted yourselves very well. I think that the city has some good candidates here to choose from, and again, I hope that you're successful. The last comment I want to make is I want you to remember that even though you pass the zoning ordinance tonight, or the amended ordinance, you will have another opportunity in the development plan to approve or disapprove a development plan from the Planning Commission. That really will give you more leverage than you have now in regard to exactly how that development goes up there with the hospital. And I'd also ask council to, if they can, pay attention to the trade publications for the healthcare industry. There have been quite a few articles lately on Kaiser. So, and I'll finish with, I want to wish everyone, certainly all the mothers and the grandmothers, happy Mother's Day. And I'm sure that everyone will enjoy themselves, and council will move forward with this project in the best way possible for all of the citizens. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Rinaldi. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Mrs. Schumacher.
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I would like to ask that you keep the zoning on the table until somebody comes and explains the difference between R6 and R1. I gotta admit, I had not read it, but I live on a corner, and a lot of people stop and they say, what do you think about that R6? And I don't know, I haven't read it. And I was told by somebody in the administration that R6 is much better than R1 was. I read it, and there's so many things that are different And I think Mr. King should come in and explain the difference between and anybody else up there really look at it? If you did, you can do it in fifth order. And then following up, months ago now, it's probably at least 6 weeks, I mentioned there was a pile of trash out in front of 843 Music Street, and you suggested that DPW take it away. And for some reason, though, it's not on that code thing that was in the third order today, but it's still sitting there. It still looks awful, and it needs to go. Another
What was
thing,
that address again, Ms. Schumacher?
843.
843. Frank, can you? Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll follow up, sir.
The house itself is vacant, but, and then the abatement on the Spruce Street Bridge, on the, going from downtown out over to South Side. That was supposed to go to the state, and they were going to do something, but nothing has been done. It's painted yellow, and it's got tape on coming into the city, but there is absolutely nothing on the side going out of the downtown.
Frank,
and
could you
it's-
check? I believe the state was supposed to address that.
That was reported, sir, to both PennDOT and the DPW. I'll follow up.
Thank you.
And remind everybody that this is Lyme Disease Month, and if anybody gets a tick, you can send it up to East Stroudsburg. They have a lab up there that will tell you whether or not it has Lyme disease, and or whether you do or don't. And then, do we have anything new on the pilot contributions?
I'll address that in fifth order.
Great, okay. Now, there are a few things that make you go, One of them was Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine had their commencement Sunday at the FM Kirby Center in Wilkes-Barre. I find that a slap in the face to the city of Scranton. I don't know why they do it, but we don't charge them any tax, and then they go out and rent a place not in the city. I don't think that's nice. The 2023 paving program, when are we going to see that? Anybody know?
I believe we got the list, didn't we, Frank?
We did, sir. It's a fall paving program this year.
Okay. Would we be able to get that posted on the city website or ask the administration?
I will, and I'll share it with Ms. Schumacher also.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and then last year you voted to replace the business and mercantile tax with a payroll prep. But everything I see, including the monthly revenue, still says mercantile and business tax. It doesn't say, are we really doing the, what did I say it was? Payroll prep.
I believe that was just part of last year as the transition, but 2023, we should be fully over into.
But it's not. I mean, if you looked at whatever that thing was that the treasurer sends out, it still does on all of the city's stuff too. Now,
Double check that.
so yeah. And then on 4 or 5B, if that is funded, what is the Linden storm issue? And on 5, that was 5B, on the other one, would there be a demolition if we get funding at NAOG? I would like to know what would be demolished. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry to
Thank
go
you, Ms.
over.
Schumacher. I believe that Mr. Smurl is going to address the NAOG issue.
Okay.
And whenever you apply for a RACP, it's usually a matching fund. So it looks like there's going to be some streetscape and stormwater work done on Linden Street as well. Are you talking 5C or 5B?
B.
5B that's NAOG. That's
Yeah, okay, so then the other one was...
$500,000.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to be heard?
Good evening, Joanne Williams, city resident. I just wanted to take the time to thank Mr. Schuster, Mr. King, Mr. McAndrew, and Dr. Rothchild for standing up and standing and voting for us neighbors up on the hill. My next thing is, how many swimming pools will be open in the city of Scranton this summer? Does anyone have an idea? I know.
I believe it's 4.
Is Weston Field one of them?
Weston Field, well, there's the indoor and the outdoor pool.
Okay.
And then there's Western Park.
Okay.
And then there's Connell Park.
Okay. Also, I know the other speaker was talking about, like, when will we ever get to starting with NAOG? I mean, that's another good question, I guess, right?
We're doing our best to
I
push the
know you are.
administration. No, believe me, we're pushing it with the mayor and the administration to really put a plan into action and actually look at funding to get a pool up there.
And I appreciate that. And also about the playgrounds, I heard that you were also looking into, restoring the playgrounds again. And I do appreciate that too for the children of the city. Now, lastly, this is the month of May, and the month of May is Mental Health Month. And I just think publicly that our schools need to be more educated in mental health. Our workplaces need to be more educated in mental health. Our family and friends. We all need to be more educated in mental health, because from somewhere it's lost. And we have to remember how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Dave Dobson.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident of Scranton. I would like to point out some things with the pool at NAOG. To start, back around 2002, I lived up on the 1600 of Pine Street. And I was there for about a year, and during the summer I would see people returning from swimming just about the time I was pulling in from work. And from what I understood, it was about $1 to swim that day. Then the sliding board appeared. It went up to $3. Then it went up to $5, and with the taxpayers, they were limited to paying for swimming only on weekdays and so forth. So the parents couldn't bring their kids up and swim, and they were kind of locked out. They had to pay if they wanted to go inside and watch over the kids to make sure they're not in some kind of trouble, anyway, the price just kept increasing, and the availability of the pool kept decreasing with that sliding board. And it was popular, but whatever we do with the amount of, and I'll get to that a little later, tax-exempt properties in this town. I don't think the average jerk needs needs any increases in their taxes to a frivolous extent. I'm all for a pool, but we have to start. Here's something I read last week in the paper. Geisinger strikes deal with Kaiser. Now we've negotiated and went back and forth with Geisinger constantly, a couple of years. I had a few doctors that didn't like working there anymore after Geisinger, and I lost them as personal attendees, and well, they've been kind of neglectful of me lately, but I'm only one person. But this organization from the West Coast apparently has their own insurance, and they do not admit people from, maybe I'm wrong, if you don't have Kaiser insurance, you won't be taken into a Kaiser hospital. I was at my doctor's yesterday, and he had some students from the yeshiva because he's Orthodox Jewish, and they were from the West Coast, covered by Kaiser insurance. Small office, Kaiser refused to pay them. So this is the type of people we're starting to get involved with here. We need to be very careful, because we might find out that we thought we bought a Chihuahua and had a wolf delivered. So, and on these audits, every year, I've been coming here since, I think, early 2007. And every year they got a little later. And after Mr. Doherty, they were hardly usable by then. But after Mr. Courtright got in, they just kept getting later and later and later. And 2 years is too much. If people, including anybody at fault within the city administration, if they can't come up with their figures, we don't need them. We don't need this anymore. It needs to stop. And once again, I'm short on time, but these tax-exempt institutions are killing us. There's our swimming pools. There's our streets paved. There's everything. And we got to go after the state. It's the state constitution that disallows us to tax anybody. And pilots are voluntary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. Is there anyone else like to be heard?
Hello, Council. Rick Little. I went to my landlord today, Scranton Housing Authority, and they're all referring me to lawyers all over the place, not accepting service, not even talking to me. But the one thing I found curious, speaking to the controller over there today, she said that 400 Adams Avenue, which is Scranton Housing Authority, is owned by HUD. Now, I've done a lot of research. I've gone to the Globe building to find out. I believe that building's owned by the city of Scranton. I'm wondering how I can find out the connection between 400 Adams Avenue. Does the city of Scranton own that building? Who owns the building? I mean, they just send me on wild goose chases, but I'm sure that HUD, which is the federal government, does not own that building. And I've been to the Globe building, you know, looking up the address, and it's all these intricate LLCs and everything. Who owns the building, you know? Because when I talk to a police officer, no, that's not a federal facility. But if they're telling me that SHA is owned by HUD, that doesn't sound right to me. And
We'll see if we can get an answer for you on that, Mr. Little. If we could check on that, or if our solicitor could check to see.
I'm fairly certain that the Scranton Housing Authority owns that building.
I can't hear you.
Scranton Housing Authority owns that building. They administer federal funds.
That's what my research said, Scranton Housing Authority, and that's...
The city doesn't.
The city doesn't. Scranton, so the entity of Scranton Housing Authority, which is run by the commissioners...
No, it's not. Lackawanna County Commissioners have nothing to do with the Scranton Housing Authority.
No, not the Scranton commissioners, the Board of Commissioners of Scranton Housing Authority.
The board runs the housing authority, yes.
Yes. And they're not owned by HUD?
What is not owned by HUD?
The building itself. She said to me, the building's owned by HUD.
To the best of my knowledge, the Scranton Housing Authority owns that building. HUD does not.
I can't hear you at all.
To the best of my ability, the Scranton Housing Authority owns that building. HUD does not.
Scranton Housing Authority. That's what I thought.
They're a federally funded program. The Housing Authority is a federally funded program.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
But they don't own the...
We'll check on it, but I'm pretty sure that the Housing Authority in and of itself owns that building. Okay?
Yeah, the Scranton Housing Authority is under the city of Scranton, right?
They appoint the board members, but they have no actual power
Connection to the real estate.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, how would I receive any guidance on that? Do you want my email or?
We'll report back to you. You can leave your email with Allison. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard? Fifth order?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any comments or motions?
Yes, I have two. First one is I spoke with the administration about Kohansky. It seems they were paid in full on May 3rd. The final payment was made in full on, that was the end of their contract. Now, I see their contract is about, and I believe this last contract was $42,500, which means the 10% would be $4,250, which was not held back. I don't know the administration's reason for not holding that back.
I can explain. Well, I'll tell you what the mayor told me. The mayor indicated that they felt as though they're not going to pursue it because they felt like it was going to end up going into litigation, and they didn't. They felt like for $4,250, the litigation would far exceed what they would get back in that 10%. That's
exactly,
what you said to me.
That's exactly what I thought. But it's not my $4,200. So, but I think it would far exceed that amount of money. The second thing was we had someone come here from 1119 Jackson Street and say the city removed their electric meter. So I researched Jackson Street. It seems that it was purchased in 2007. And the reason code enforcement was sent there was request of the Scranton Police Department. So code enforcement had gotten there, found some violations, and they had called the fire department because the fire inspector is the one that must inspect the panel box to see if it is unsafe. He determined it was unsafe and had the electric company pull the meter. Also, the building is a commercial property, which means you need to be licensed to do any work at all in there. Now, there has been work going on in there for a while, and there were no permits pulled at all. It also has multiple code violations, and it also has multiple unpaid quality of life tickets. I don't even know how many are there, but there's a lot of them. And that's why the meter was pulled, not for the reason that we were told. That's all I have for that.
Thank you, Mr. Smurl. Mr. Schuster? Any motions or comments?
My only comment, me and Frank have been back and forth over the last couple of days. We had a residence on Putnam Street that we were in correspondence with code enforcement and I think the law department, and then there was a house on 10th Avenue as well, so I'll just follow up on those as we move forward, but that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a number of updates and requests. The first, I just wanted to provide an update that there was a complaint I received about the railroad crossing at Caphouse and Larch Street, and so I've received notice that that has been repaired by the Railroad Authority. I know that there might be a number of them throughout the city that are also in need of a repair, so I think we had asked if there were any additional ones, but I didn't hear about others. So the other repair took place on Burt Street from American Water, and someone who lives near there had complained again because it seems like they paved it and it rectified the bottom of the hill and the second portion of it where there was a bump, but it didn't for the first. And so this has been going on for several years, and the project was several years, and now just to get the repairs done and to have the road in an acceptable form has also taken a very long time. And I know I've been out there myself along with American Water to see why we can't get this solved. So I don't know if there are plans for anything additional, but Mr. Voldenberg, if you could please check with them as to why that issue is still present on the first section of their repair on Burt Street.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Okay. And this is more than about this street, right? Because we need to hold them accountable throughout the whole city. And so that's important that we make sure the utility companies are repairing the roads in an acceptable manner. And I'd also received complaints about a food truck that was parked, or that's normally parked on Mulberry Street up near the hospital. And the place that they park, I'm not sure if it's legal where they are parking, but it is making it difficult for a Colts bus to turn around the corner there, and there might be other violations there too. So I think, previously asked for maybe like a parking enforcement to get out there to inspect, but I'm not sure that that's happened. I haven't received an update, so if we could check on that as well.
I will.
Thank you. And Paul from Riley and Associates will be completing a traffic study at Mulberry and Harrison. I thought originally we might need to put that through PennDOT, but because the city usually takes care of the traffic lights, that's why our engineer is going to take a look at that to see if it's warranted for a left-hand signal to turn out onto Harrison. And I know I sound like a broken record, but we still don't have updated handicap parking signs and lines that are painted downtown, and I'm not understanding what the holdup is at this point. I know that we are waiting for the sign machine to get fixed for DPW, but that has been, there's a new sign machine that we've had for several weeks, if not a couple months now, so I want to make sure that that gets accomplished. If we could please contact DPW to make sure that happens.
I'll follow up with all parties.
Okay, great. And then, yeah, and with SPD as well, because there's quite a few times I've been down there now, and especially the one spot on Penn Avenue that I've noticed that anytime I'm down there, there's a car parked, a different car each time, or a truck or whatever parked there that doesn't have a handicap placard. And it's very frustrating for me to see, but I can only imagine for someone who needs that spot and who's downtown to have other vehicles parked there and not have the parking available when they need it. And someone had mentioned the playgrounds at NAOG, which we had also sent that in, but I haven't heard an update on whether or not an inspector got out there and what the results were and when it will be repaired.
I'll take care of it, Dr. Rothchild.
Thank you. And one last thing, one of the speakers had reminded me, I did want to mention tonight that it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to provide a couple of phone numbers. I'm not going to include all of them, but the National Crisis Line, if someone is in a state of crisis or struggling or has thoughts of suicide, please call 988. You can also text that number, or you can chat online at 988lifeline.org. You don't need to call add any other numbers to it. Just 988 is the national line for suicide. And then if you're part of the LGBTQ community, the Trevor Project has their line as well, which is 1-866-488-7386. So if anyone's watching and you are struggling with your mental health, there is help out there, and I would encourage anyone to seek out that help if needed.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew?
Yes, I have 3 issues that were brought to me by concerned residents. The first one being a sewer drain on 705 and 711 West Elm Street. It's an issue. The residents there were told to contact the sewer company, and the sewer company told them to contact the water company. So the problem they're having is on their side of the street between the 2 neighbors' house, the road starts to level out, and it puddles or freezes, and they end up parking on ice or having issues. So they said that the water company is there now doing some work.
Please, could you take your conversation to the hallway so we could hear Mr. McAndrew speak? Thank you.
Thank you. So they said that now's a great time to have either code enforcement, DPW, city engineers get out there while the water company is working on this issue, but they're not specifically working on their issue, but their issue is a byproduct of it. So if you could have them take a look at that drain, between 705 and 711 West Elm Street.
I will, sir.
And then Einan Street, 1143 and 1145. It's a house, it's condemned, but already, and it's early in the spring, the grass is very high. So I'm not sure what happens when a house is condemned. I know the owners are still responsible. They may be hard to get a hold of. That's probably one of the reasons why it's condemned, but I'm not sure what the process is. So if code enforcement can go over, see what they can do with that. And then this other issue was brought to me on Kaiser Avenue, where you're going towards Kaiser, and to your left would be North-South Road. This isn't in Taylor, this is in the West Scranton part of Kaiser Avenue. That it was told to me that there's an island or a V piece of land that the city used to own or still owns or doesn't own, that there's a huge car lot there now, and this island has become part of that. So when you pull out of North-South Road onto Kaiser, it creates a very dangerous situation with a line of sight issue. So this resident seems to be in the know somewhat, and I said I'll confirm, if I can, that did the city own that piece of land that's now part of this car lot? If they did, when did they sell it, or how did they acquire it? And for reference, it's called Black Tie Auto. But I actually took a ride by it myself today. It doesn't look right. So if it doesn't look right, it might not be right. It's definitely a safety issue. If we can have all departments that would handle that, take a good look at it.
I will,
check
sir.
on the property itself if we did own it at some point. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. In reference to the HUP test for pilots, the administration plans to put out an RFP by the end of the month to have someone go out and look at these pilots that may have been approved 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And there's a test that's actually performed to see if they actually still qualify for what they originally applied for to be tax exempt. So that's coming very soon to put an RFP out to have a company to perform that hub test on behalf of the city. Someone mentioned about the University of Scranton rental registration fees for university-owned apartments. The administration has been in discussions with the University of Scranton and is looking into it. Important to note that the vast majority of those student apartments are privately owned, but I believe there are a certain number that are owned by the university, and we believe may be subject to registration fees minimally. So talk to the mayor, and they are researching that and looking into it. She also indicated to me that they're very close to hiring a new Parks and Rec director. I think they're down to 2 or 3 finalists, and they hope to send a name up to us in fairly short order. Joan Hodawanitz, the 2022 Statement of Financial Interests are on the city website now. Legislation for introduction at next week's council meeting will include the independent contractor agreement for extension with Matt Dominies to provide financial director services to the city. He is actually a 1099 consultant for the city. Master services agreement with Clifton Larson Allen LLP to perform City of Scranton independent audit, single audit for years ending December 31st, 2022, 2023, and 2024. We hope to have that by either next Tuesday or the following Tuesday. Legislation for appointment to Eileen Cipriani is set to be received at our council office by tomorrow. Homeless encampments in the city are being addressed by Scranton Police Department, Scranton Fire Department, Code Enforcement, and DPW. And if needed, Silex Street, the dead end street, homeless encampments, homeless entering yards and homes. They'll hopefully be looking into those issues. Pavilion area and along the Heritage Trail off of the street. And I believe Virgil Argenta brought that up. There's debris and trash and panhandling happening. So they're going to be monitoring, looking into those areas. The 600 block of North 6th Avenue, homeless encampments, debris and trash. And also the McDade Expressway near Scranton High School, homeless encampments along the expressway. And I also asked you, and I know that I believe Code Enforcement went out to 336 Geraldine Court. I had a resident reach out to me about a quality of life issue. I believe that they've ordered, they received a citation or a warning and then gave them 2 weeks to get that property up to snuff, or else there will be fines. In reference to the R6 zoning on East Mountain, I will tell you this, that as the zoning ordinance has gone through, many changes, many amendments, a big part of it was meeting with the local neighborhood associations, and that did occur throughout the entire city, and adjustments were made and things were removed prior to getting to us. And then a week or two, probably 2 weeks ago, I know on East Mountain, which is probably the most restrictive zoning area in the city. It's got the largest conservation area in the city. It also now limits garden apartments will not be permitted, nor will double houses. So as far as I'm concerned, I believe we did our due diligence, and we listened to the people, and we got the input, and amendments were made, and I believe it's where it needs to be for final passage. That's all I have. Thank you.
5B for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the city's acceptance and administration of grant funds from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for up to $500,000 to be used for the NAOG Multipurpose Courts and Pavilion Project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, Mr. King, this, I made an appointment with Eileen Cipriani and also Bob Gattens from the Recreation Authority to discuss location of this project. I had suggested it be put behind the current community building because there's a big space there where they used to have, like the tiny wading pools were there. There right now there is an old flag pole there and it's pretty much falling down. But this also includes, it says, a new pavilion. there is a pavilion existing there, if you look behind there, and it's a very large pavilion. So I had suggested to take the money from putting a pavilion in instead of building two, and to take the building that's there and connect that with the deck and stairs leading down into the courts. So you can get in there from the building and then also from the ramp that would be handicapped. My reason for that also being behind there is water there, there's electricity there. So all of the utilities are existing in that spot. So that just seemed to be the most likely area to put all of these courts. And there will be new fencing and also security cameras. I was told they were to be installed and they would be watched from the police department. So hopefully it would keep the area quiet. The last thing I have is council does have, we have a meeting scheduled with Mayor Cognetti and also Eileen Cipriani to start discussion for the pool area that we all agreed on that we need. So that is also in the works.
So also on the question, to add to Mr. Smurl here, the one question that I had on this was, what area is that going to be located? I know that's Mr. Smurl's suggestion, and I think it's probably a reasonable spot for this, but can we add to that, Mr. Voldenberg, if we could get the administration's plans on where this would occur and what demolition would have to be done?
I'll look into it, sir.
Thank you.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution ratifying and approving the city's acceptance and administration of grant funds from the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for up to $2 million to be used for the streetscape and stormwater Linden Street project.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced to its proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 227, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Press Record Communications New York, LLC, to perform communications and marketing services for the Office of Community Development.
Was a recommendation the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I brought up a couple things when it came up last week at introduction. The original contract was for a 6-month period. It seemed very reasonable. It was promoting the city of Scranton. It had a 6-month extension. This contract here, from what I read, seems to be a 2-year contract with a 1-year extension. Last year we paid $30,000 for 6 articles and an op-ed piece in the paper. I do see some changes in the language. It seems like some of the vision has changed. The last contract was to promote the city of Scranton, but in this document I see things like mayor's point of view, mayor's perspective, things like that. It seems like that vision has changed. I know the recommendation came from the administration with the Economic and Strategic Development Plan. Some things I see here, there's a retainer that does not include costs for content development. I don't know if that's going to be some added costs, if there's going to be additional requests that they're going to make for additions to this budget. I'm not really sure. So I don't know if it's something that's open to be more than we're seeing here, if there's can be some added items, although there is a, well, I'll be voting against this. I didn't really like the vision change.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, previously tabled. for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, filed the Council number 54, 2023, establishing regulations and restrictions for the location and use of lots, land, buildings, and other structures, the height, number of stories, and size and bulk of buildings and structures, the density of population, off-street parking, and similar accessory regulations in the City of Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, and for said purposes dividing the City of Scranton into districts and establishing the boundaries thereof, prescribing certain uniform regulations for each such district, and providing for the administrative enforcement and amendment of its provisions in accordance with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code 53 PS Section 10101 et sec. As amended.
What's the recommendation, Chairperson, for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, finally, I recommend a final vote on item 7B.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, President King, I'm going to vote in favor of adopting the zoning ordinance because it would be the right thing to do for the entire city. I didn't have an opportunity last time we were making amendments and stuff to the zoning ordinance, but I did want to make a height restriction in the civic zone to be reduced from 100 feet to 70 feet. That would include all of the civic zone. That's the space between Moses Taylor and Mercy Hospital. And it would also have included the 300 block of Colfax Avenue. What we have now is both of those areas, you are allowed to, once this passes, construct anything 100 feet without going to zoning or having any other approval. And that's all I have.
On the question, I would just like to say there's been a tremendous amount of work and time and effort that's gone into this zoning ordinance. It's been well over a year and a half, 2 years, maybe longer. And I think it's a long time coming. I think that we have it as, in the best spot that we possibly can, considering everyone in the city. It's never easy to please everyone. My father used to say you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. I'm sure you all heard that growing up, and that's quite frankly true. And I've experienced that in any contract I've ever negotiated. Typically, when both sides are a little upset, it means that you probably get a good contract because each side compromised a little bit. So I think that's what we have here, and I think that this zoning ordinance, being 30 years old, was long overdue. I believe there was a lot of time and effort and thought that went into this. There were amendments made, and I think it's exciting that we're going to be able to pass this tonight and then forward it off to Dunmore and it sounds like possibly Waverly.
On the question, I'm also happy that we'll be passing this ordinance tonight. It has been a long time coming, and I think that the updates to the ordinance will be a positive for the city as a whole, and I'm glad we were able to reach a fair compromise with the residents on the request that they had for us in this zoning ordinance.
On the question, I just want to say how proud I am of all of you, the Hill Section Residents and Neighborhood Association, and the other neighborhood associations throughout the city that came and showed their support for you. What makes our city great is neighborhood associations and residents like you. Persistence prevails.
I guess I might as well also say something on the question. Going back to my year on the Planning Commission in 2012, or actually 2013, 2014, I voted against the zoning of the Audubon School when that was sold. And this fight for me goes back to that day. I was glad that the neighborhood came out and gave their opinions. I'm glad that they got their input added to this ordinance. I was very proud to hear that some of the other neighborhood associations also supported them. Greenridge, I might as well say who they are, Greenridge Trip Park and the Bull's Head Providence Neighborhood Association. So very proud when they come out for the support, and I'm glad to see that we're happy with this ordinance.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
That one's yours. I'll take it.
Eighth order, 8A, file to council number 54, 2023.
This is a restaurant liquor license, and it has been tabled until public hearing can be held on Wednesday, May 17th at 5:45 p.m. One last comment before I end. I typically don't like to text during the meeting, but I did a few times because my daughter's competing in a track meet. She's a senior. I couldn't be there, and she did very well, ran her best time. So, but her mother was there, and it's Mother's Day weekend this weekend. So if that's seen on YouTube, so be it. Love my daughter and proud of her. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.